Many men in this industry caught by Breakker. Great throw. Think about what
The
Heyman
WWE Universe held its breath as the unthinkable finally happened. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief and face of WWE, spoke from his hospital bed after the brutal spear delivered by Bron Breakker at Clash in Paris left him injured and shaken. The aura of invincibility that had surrounded him for years seemed to dim in that sterile room. The hum of machines and the dull glow of hospital lights replacing the roar of packed arenas. Yet, as the camera focused in on Reigns' face, bruised but defiant, his words carried the same authority that had made him the cornerstone of WWE. He looked into the lens with the intensity of a general rallying his troops and declared that Breakker's assault was not the end of the bloodline, but the beginning of something even more dangerous. In a voice low but cutting, Reigns told Breakker he had just made the biggest mistake of his career, and then he dropped a promise that sent shivers through fans around the world. "When I return, and I will return, I'm coming for you. Not for a championship, not for glory, for vengeance, and I won't be coming alone." It was a moment that shattered the illusion of silence around him, proving that even when hospitalized, Reigns remains the heartbeat of the bloodline and the architect of its vengeance. The bloodline in crisis. The hospital message delivered by Roman Reigns did more than rattle Bron Breakker. It forced the WWE Universe to stare directly at the reality that its most dominant modern faction was unraveling under pressure. For 4 years, the bloodline had been positioned as an unshakable fortress, an unstoppable dynasty that held WWE hostage with its dominance, manipulation, and unified front. Now, that fortress looks cracked and fragile. Roman Reigns lies injured, his body weakened from Breakker's brutal spear at Clash in Paris, while Jey Uso nurses his own wounds after Bronson Reed's devastating assault. Jimmy Uso, long the emotional core of the Anoa'i dynasty, is visibly broken, a man adrift without the presence of his brothers to guide him. Solo Sikoa, the silent powerhouse once content to act as an enforcer, suddenly finds himself shouldering the unbearable weight of leadership in the tribal chief's absence, a role that demands far more than brute force. And looming in the shadows, Paul Heyman, the mastermind who has guided Roman's historic run, seems more elusive and calculating than ever. His shifting presence sparking whispers that he may be fueling division rather than preserving unity. Rivals smell blood in the water. They see not an empire, but a wounded beast vulnerable to hunters. Yet, in the middle of this chaos, Roman's vow from his hospital bed reminded fans of what made the bloodline so terrifying in the first place. They're to regroup, retaliate, and rise even stronger from fire. If this is truly the faction's lowest point, it may also become the crucible that transforms them into something more dangerous than ever before. Bron Breakker's ascent and arrogance. For Bron Breakker, the attack on Roman Reigns wasn't just another match-ending move. It was the moment that may define his career for years to come. The second-generation powerhouse, carrying the legacy of the Steiner family, has been earmarked as the future of WWE since his NXT debut. His explosive athleticism, raw power, and ability to connect with audiences marked him as a star in the making, but Paris changed everything. By daring to spear the tribal chief and leave him hospitalized, Breakker didn't just announce himself, he declared war on WWE's most sacred dynasty. In the aftermath, he laughed off Roman's warning from the hospital, dismissing him with the kind of arrogance that only comes from youthful confidence and the belief that the torch is ready to be passed. Roman's still talking when he should be healing, Breakker reportedly told backstage reporters, his tone dripping with cockiness. But arrogance has toppled many before him, and what Breakker may not realise is that he has invited a storm greater than any single superstar can weather. Roman Reigns is not simply a champion. He is the embodiment of the Anoa'i family's legacy, the cornerstone of WWE's most dominant storyline in decades. Breakker may believe he ended the bloodline, But in truth, he may have awoken a dynasty's most dangerous chapter, one built not on celebration and dominance, but on vengeance. If Reigns' words carry weight, and history suggests they always do, then Breakker has invited a war that could either cement him as the face of the next generation, or leave him as another name crushed beneath the tribal chief's wrath. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and the weight of family. No story involving the Bloodline is ever just about championships or rivalries. It is always about family, and nowhere is that clearer than in the fractured states of Jey and Jimmy Uso. Jey, the man who once stood at Roman's side as main event Jey Uso, now lies in a hospital bed himself, battered and bruised from Bronson Reed's assault. For years, Jey has been the emotional centre of the Bloodline, the brother who poured his soul into protecting Roman and carrying forward the family's legacy. But now, his fight isn't against an opponent in the ring, it's against the slow crawl of recovery. Jimmy, meanwhile, walks through WWE programming like a man with a weight too heavy to carry. His once vibrant energy, the spark that made him one of the most charismatic members of the Bloodline, has been dimmed, replaced by silence and uncertainty. Fans see it in his eyes, the pain of watching his brothers fall, the helplessness of standing on the sidelines, and the fear that the dynasty their family built is slipping away. Roman's message wasn't just a warning to Breakker. It was a reminder to his family that bloodlines don't crumble in silence. They roar back. For the Usos, that roar may be their only path to redemption, a chance to honour their family's name and remind the world why they became the heart and soul of the most dominant faction in WWE history. Solo Sikoa's test of leadership. Of all the figures caught in this crisis, none face more scrutiny than Solo Sikoa. The youngest of the group, he has always been defined by his silent demeanour and devastating in-ring presence, a man who rarely speaks, but makes every action count. Until now, that was enough. But with Reigns and Jey hospitalised, the burden of leadership falls squarely on his shoulders, and leadership requires more than brute strength. Solo must now navigate the treacherous waters of ambition, loyalty, and manipulation. Can he inspire his family to rally when their leader is sidelined? Can he stand firm in the face of rivals eager to capitalise on their weakness? And perhaps most dangerously, can he resist the temptation to seize the throne himself while Roman is away? Backstage whispers suggest some believe Solo has the makings of a future tribal chief, while others doubt whether he possesses the charisma and emotional gravity required to unify such a fractured family. Roman's hospital message hinted at unity, but unity requires trust, and the question remains whether Solo can command it in Reigns' absence. If he succeeds, he may not only preserve the bloodline, but elevate himself into its next great leader. If he fails, the collapse of the dynasty may begin under his watch. Paul Heyman's manipulations. In every great empire there lurks a manipulator, and in the bloodline, that role has always belonged to Paul Heyman. For years, Heyman has guided Roman Reigns with his silver tongue and unmatched ability to manipulate narratives, weaving the tribal chief's reign into the most compelling storyline WWE has produced in decades. But in moments of weakness, Heyman has always looked to hedge his bets. His history with Brock Lesnar taught fans that Heyman's loyalty often extends only as far as the security of his own place in power, and now, with the bloodline wounded, his absence from Roman's hospital message speaks volumes. Some insiders whisper that Heyman has been whispering encouragement into Breakker's ear, fueling his arrogance, while others maintain that he remains committed to Roman's vision. Whatever the truth, Heyman's presence, or lack thereof, has become a destabilising factor for the family. For a dynasty already divided by injury and emotional turmoil, the absence of a trusted strategist could be catastrophic. Roman promised he wouldn't return alone, but the question fans now ask is whether Heyman will be standing beside him when that day comes, or across from him, aligning himself with the future instead of the past. The hospital message. A declaration of war. Roman's hospital message may have been short, but it carried the weight of 1,000 promos. His vow to return not for glory or championships, but for vengeance reframed the narrative entirely. This wasn't about ambition, it was about retribution. It was about sending a clear message to Breakker and anyone else who believed the Bloodline's time was over. The fight isn't finished, it's only just begun. By declaring that he would not return alone, Roman fanned the flames of speculation. Would the Bloodline rally around him once again? Would he bring in new allies to strengthen the dynasty? Could fractured members like Jimmy be restored by the sheer gravity of his leadership? The timing of the video was just as important as the words themselves. Delivered while he and Jay both lay in hospital beds, the message became a masterstroke of psychological warfare, proving that even physically broken, Reigns' presence casts a shadow over WWE that cannot be ignored. For Breakker, the message was a death sentence disguised as a promise. For the WWE Universe, it was the opening salvo in what may become the most dangerous chapter of the Bloodline saga yet, the future of the Bloodline saga. The implications of Roman's hospital vow are vast, and the possibilities stretch from Survivor Series to WrestleMania and beyond. A unified Bloodline counterattack against Breakker and Reed feels inevitable, perhaps culminating in a Survivor Series War Games spectacle that pits the family's might against the arrogance of their enemies. Jey Uso's eventual recovery could become a dramatic emotional return, reinforcing his role as the beating heart of the dynasty, while Jimmy's fractured state may lead him toward either redemption or betrayal. Solo Sikoa's leadership will be tested in the fires of crisis, with the possibility that his hunger for recognition leads him into direct conflict with Roman himself. And behind it all, Paul Heyman looms, every move of his a potential tipping point between unity and collapse. What is certain is that WWE's landscape stands on the verge of seismic change. Whether the Bloodline emerges stronger or shattered will determine not only the next chapter of their saga, but the entire direction of WWE's storytelling for years to come. Conclusion. The tribal chief still reigns. Roman Reigns' message from his hospital bed was more than just words. It was a declaration of survival, vengeance, and undying loyalty. It reminded the WWE Universe that the tribal chief's true power lies not in his title reigns or his record-breaking victories, but in his ability to command attention, shape narratives, and lead his family even when confined to a hospital room. Breakker may have knocked him down, but he did not silence him, and that defiance alone proved why Roman remains the most compelling figure in wrestling today. His vow to return, not alone, was both a promise to his enemies and a rallying cry to his family. The Bloodline saga is far from finished. In fact, it is entering its most personal and dangerous chapter yet, one where vengeance, loyalty, and family intertwine to redefine WWE's future. As fans wait with anticipation for the tribal chief's inevitable return, one truth stands unshakable. The Bloodline continues, and when Roman Reigns rises from that hospital bed to reclaim his throne, the entire wrestling world will feel the tremor.